I'm Bill Donath, the president of the society. And if you haven't been here before, there is a restroom in the back before you get outside. So don't go too far. Not like the church, no. But welcome, and I'm going to turn this over to Diane to introduce our speakers. So, Diane?
Okay, our speakers this evening are well known to you, I believe. Gary and Pat Freese have lived in Lincoln for quite a few years. They're well versed on the Catholic churches in the county. Gary actually recorded records and worked on updating them in the office at the Catholic Church at Holy Family Church for some time. He's retired from that position now, and they have put together a wonderful program on the history of the church. So I'm going to turn it over to Pat and Gary.
Gary, get the light.
This is I'm going to keep her as my stick person.
I'm a stick person.
She's going to have.
Don't get in the way.
No, I have to get out of the way so you can see that.
So if you misbehave, I'll be here. Okay. Let this see.
First of all, she mentioned that I was recording some of the history for a while at St. Pat's, and the records start from about 1861. And so there was quite, I think you got about halfway through, and somebody else has got it now. And then my wife and I were historians for a while, and the hardest part about that job was everybody gives you the records or find things that they donate, and then you try to find a place for it, and you've got to watch it because first thing you know, it's gone. But we retired from that job too.
And we didn't take the stuff.
And I should also tell you that later on it's going to come important that I'm German, my wife is Catholic, and her middle name is Hickey. This is going to come up. Okay, first of all, the churches in Logan County, first of all, that's St. Columba, Mason City. Everybody says that's not in the county. You're right, but I'm going to tell you a little about something about that. And then another important thing is that a lot of these churches, I'm going to call them mission churches. They weren't, they didn't have a pastor or a priest. They were hooked to, for example, Mason City might be hooked to Atlanta or Bloomington or to get a priest. They had a church, but it wasn't what you would call it a church today. Full-time, yeah.
Minister.
Right. Okay, first I'm going to start with Columba. Thank you. And I guess it's kind of blurry. That's better. Let's turn it back up.
I'm going to move down so I can
St. Columba.
Sweet news. Yeah, okay.
I got it here because a lot of people from the Scully Prairie went to this church. And if you'll notice up here in the fine print, Hickey was one of them, Scully Prairie. So, and then this church started in 1867, I believe, 1860. And then took 5 years to build it. Started as a Presbyterian church. Presbyterians built it, and the Catholic Church took it over in about 1865. I'm sorry, the church was finished in 1865. The Catholics bought it in 1872. And that was first linked as a mission church to Dullivan. And according to Mason City Historical Society, about 1980 is when this was no church no more in this building. I think it's used maybe for something else, but it's not in this building. Okay, next one. That's all I got on that.
I would like to interject there that a couple of these churches, especially Columba, there is no history that we have found. I have wrinkled pages, I've called people, I called the Mason City Historical Society, I have done everything I can think to do, and there's no history. It's all been forgotten, destroyed.
We did have, there is a few records at St. Pat's. A few, that's it.
Have you tried the diocese or the?
No, don't think we tried that, no.
We haven't tried the
I want to
diocese.
look at theirs, see if they might have.
It's just, well, you'll see the other problem here.
Okay, the next one is St. John's Church in Middletown. And that one's got a neat history. They call it the Little Child's Chapel. And there's a reason why. There's a long story. I hope I get this right. But in Chicago, I think it was Father Kelly, about 1906 or 7, he was giving a talk to little kids. And he told them a story about a little child in Nebraska that was donated some money from her father's estate or grandfather's, donated her $500. And the little girl took her money and gave it to the church, and they built a church in Nebraska. Well, the little girl that heard this story ran home to her mother and said, "Hey, you know, I got some money from an estate. I'm going to build a church." So she said, her mother said, "Well, okay, we'll take it to Father." And he said, "Well, okay." So about 1907, Father Kelly was in Chautauqua, our Chautauqua. He was giving a talk, and he said he found 15 families from Middletown that wanted a church. And so he said, "Well, I've got $500. The church has to be built in Illinois, and if you can have this $500 to build a church, if you can come up with $1,500. And they did that. They come up with $2,000. So in 1908, this church was built, and it started in Middletown. And then the only other, well, I'll tell you what, I'll go to my wife on this, because we visited this, and maybe she can tell you the story about your relatives when we visited.
Somehow, we must have been holy people because we're connected to most of the churches. Anyway, every stained glass window in there has the name Dorgan on it. My dad's sister married a Dorgan. So his family came up here from Texas, and we went out to the church, got in, took pictures of all this and that. The other neat thing about this church is it had a biblical garden. So all the plants that are mentioned in the Bible, there was a flower bed of biblical plants. I'll never forget that. It has since,
It's still there.
well, we haven't been out there in a couple of years. A couple photographers bought it over, and then the last we heard that it's overgrown, falling down. Really sad.
But all the windows are intact.
They were when we were there.
Whenever I get to Middletown, I always gotta go by that church.
And the windows are still intact?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's been a couple of years since
Yeah.
I've been there, but I was always surprised.
At the
Nothing
windows?
against Middletown, but, you know,
Yeah.
kids and,
What
yes.
year did it close?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. We were there at least 15 years ago and it was sold
It's been,
I know.
quite a while.
At one time, they used to do a Christmas Eve mass, but that's been a number of years.
yeah, I was gonna
Even
say.
after they closed, they would do Christmas Eve mass.
1908 until 19, says
Yep.
about 1962,
Is that what it says?
the last paragraph.
No.
The
Well, see, you
dedication
read it.
in 1908 until 1962, so.
St.
be.
John's was served by the priests from St. Mary's and Holy Family churches through 1975.
I got 75, so okay.
So
The
that's,
last, okay.
yeah.
And then only one other thing, the bell in this church, in 1962, so it was still going in 1962, they got a bell from a railroad engine and they installed it in the bell tower.
It says,
Oh, God, right here, until 1975.
Yeah, right.
Not too
Okay,
far.
next. Okay, St. Aquinas, St. Thomas Aquinas. This is the new current, and that's the old one. And it just celebrated its 150th anniversary in 2011. So 1861 is when it started. And it first was in the southeast corner of, I got it wrong. Okay. They purchased the first Lutheran church in Mount Pulaski in 1867. And it ceased to be a mission and changed to Elkhart. So Elkhart was sponsored this church. And in 1884, they purchased 2 lots on Fayette Avenue. And a cornerstone of the new church was 1901. Well, if you remember, in Mount Pulaski history in 1958, they had the big tank car explosion.
Yep.
June the 1st of 1958. And so it damaged us beyond repair. So in 1961, they built this church and just to the one side of the other of where that one used to be. And I think that's all I got on that. And there's the article in the paper about the 150-year anniversary.
Next.
Okay, this is St. Mary's in Atlanta. Started in 1867 and it was started from the Chicago Diocese and then it was transferred to Elkhart Parish in 1880. And I think I'll let my wife then talk about this particular, how this article compares to that 1880, and you'll see the connection there.
This Brian McNally was an Irishman, and he worked on the railroad. And he is the brother to my grandmother. So again, we're connected. So the McNallys and the McCavitts had a lot to do with this church coming into existence. I don't know if any of your, do we have a new picture?
Yep.
Okay,
I'll get that next.
okay.
Okay.
There's the newer picture of it.
This is the new one. And in 1923, they transferred their mission to St. Pat's
Lincoln.
in Lincoln. In 1967, they purchased 5 acres in the Durley addition. 1970, they built this new church with, from the estate of Stosser and Sage. So most of the money came from that estate. I think that's about all I got on that one.
Is it still in Atlanta?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. This St. Patrick's Elkhart. It was an out mission of Bloomington to start with. Then it became in 1860 an out mission of Lincoln. In 1862, the first church was on the southeast corner of Elkhart, and it was moved to about where this current position is, but not exactly. And then that church was moved again and made a home. And the current church you see there was built in 1870. So you can see that's and it's still there. It's still in operation.
It's a beautiful church.
Yes,
It is. My mom and
Sorry.
dad were
From
married there in July
1870 and it's still in use?
Really?
Yeah, it's still.
And it's very,
That's amazing.
it's
Yeah.
a
No, it's awesome.
well-used, it's
Yeah.
a very active
They
parish.
still have chicken dinners.
Yeah, they have chicken dinners
Yeah,
and
they're active.
I think it's neat that we actually have the good old white church that we all think of
Yeah.
in history, and it's still there. It is Dorothy Gleason, her family,
Yep.
went to Elkhart.
Okay, next. Okay, this is a long story. I'm gonna have to get out in front here.
Here, you want to sit? You can sit.
This is the story of the Lincoln churches. St. Patrick's and St. Mary's and the Holy Family. Before 1850, the church held at Patrick DeWitt's in Postville, or at James Coogan House in Lincoln. And to her family, James Hickey brought priests from the city to the Scully White House in Prairie Creek. And I don't know if you remember the Scullys in the White House, the Hickey, John and William both stayed there. And James was the son. The church was built in 1857 at Broadway and Sherman, where the current ME church is. And the church was sold to the city for the school about 1866 or 67. Hope everybody can hear me, but maybe you can read it. In 1866, the diocese purchased a Baptist church at 4th and Maple and called it St. Mary's. In 1867, the Irish and the Germans just couldn't stand it anymore. So they split, and St. Mary's stayed at 4th and Maple, while the Irish built a church at 11th and Union.
Half a block apart.
11th and Union.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm sorry,
Getting
I'm
too
sorry.
fast.
I'm
Getting
ahead.
too fast. Okay, then St. Patrick's Church at 11th and Union was moved to Logan Street location 1874. And the bell that's in that, well, the bell will come in later here, but the bell for the church was commissioned in 1884, and it was moved to the newer church later on. That story will come out here. St. Mary then built a newer church dedicated April 7th, 1879. And then the new St. Patrick's was dedicated 1907. And everybody knows then that St. Mary's burned in 1976.
Can I make a comment about that?
Yes, ma'am?
I'm not too proud of it, but that was the Feast of the Immaculate Conception. It was on December 8th. And my 2 boys were the last servers in that mass,
Really?
in that church. And you know how your kids always say, I wish the church would burn down, I wish the school would burn down, but they did not burn it down. And it was a most beautiful church.
Yeah, I have a couple of pictures, but not very good. And then St. Patrick's then became Holy Family to both the Germans and the Irish. And so after this, then knowing that history, we'll get into some of the pictures. Okay. Okay, now this one here. Does everybody know what a Sanborn map is? It was, insurance company came out early and made fire insurance maps for a lot of the cities. And so they're very good maps. You have a lot of information. Like this is in 1891. And you can see right here, this is St. Mary's Church. And there's the school across the street. And right up the street, you see over here, St. Pat's Church. And notice the house on the corner. This will be important here. Okay, I don't know if I can reach this, but 1902 is over here. There's St. Mary's Church, and there's the school. Over here is still the church, St. Patrick's Church, and there's a house on the corner.
In the school.
Now the schools, I think, yeah, here's St. Pat's School over here.
No, not that far.
Not that far?
Just
It's
across
real
the
close.
street.
It's right across the street from the church.
Yeah.
Not St. Pat's School, St. Mary's was.
No, St. Pat's was
Pat's was
pretty
right.
close to where Carroll Catholic is right now. Yeah.
That's okay.
Okay,
It's
whatever.
But
irrelevant.
this one here is like 1906.
Isn't it general?
No, that's 1902.
1902.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
We walked across the street.
Okay, next. This is where it gets interesting here. This is St. Mary's Church again. This is St. Mary's School. And this is St. Pat's Church on the corner. The house is over here. I can't explain this other than, my only explanation is I think the house was moved, and I think you'll see in some more pictures here what happened, I think. But get your own opinion. I haven't seen any proof of this. Okay, now next house, next one. People will recognize this one. This is the Coogan House where the first, one of the first Catholic services were held, and this was destroyed next to the food pantry. I don't know if anybody knows where that is, but it was taken down a few years ago. Next. In the newspapers, early newspapers, this is 1878. If you read some of those in order, they give the history of all the churches in town. And you see this was number 7, so they had other churches. And anyhow, this is the St. Mary's history, and the only thing they could have known is up to 1871, so it's the early St. Mary's. And I think we about covered what's in there, but if you're interested, it's also, I put it up on the, you can read it in one of these books on the table there. Okay, next. This is very early St. Mary's, and it didn't end up looking like this. My next picture will show you.
What year was that, do you know?
Must have been like 1867 or whenever it started. It's one of the very early ones. Yeah. Okay, next picture then. Okay, this is the one people are familiar with. And what they did, they added
Light steps.
two entrances instead of one, and they added the bell tower on the top. So that's some of the major changes. Okay, next one. This is 4 pictures of the inside, but maybe the people who know St. Mary's will recognize this.
Clamshell.
I think they called it the clamshell. And it's kind of weird, but it's over top of where the preacher said homily.
It's for acoustics.
Was. I don't, anyhow, this is the inside, and it's not a very good picture, but. Okay, next. We came across this. You can't read it, I know. But it's a seating arrangement for St. Mary's. And probably all German names anyhow, you can't, German language and stuff, but that does exist. It was 1902.
Was that like the people all had their own seats in?
If you paid for them, I guess. Okay. This is St. Mary's School,
Oh, I remember that.
1924.
It had a fire escape tunnel that slid down. And we would have fire drills.
Yeah, we had one of those too.
She'll have to tell you her story about
Never
that.
mind. The nuns were not happy with those.
Next. I want to tell everybody that we have, I think it's 1922 through,
I can't see it.
1922 through 1961, we have the 8th grade graduating classes and their names. So, but I didn't, you know, I look at all them, so I threw in this one, this is the earliest one. Okay, next. Okay, this is St. Pat's now. Same newspaper. This is number 8 article, 1878. And you'll see in that book right over there, you can read that same thing. It tells you just about the whole history that we've been going through here. And so that's the end of that one. Now, this is the mystery part. This is St. Pat's Church before the current one. The one that they moved from Union Street to Logan Street. This would be it right here. And over here, you see this article. It says this is the Tui house, built on the corner, is now the site of the present church. Well, and then if you look closely, you can see the church.
The little white church.
This church over here. And some pictures I'm going to show you later is going to be what I think happened, but I'm not positive this did. But okay, next. Okay, this is St. Patrick's today. Holy Family today, sorry.
No, it's not.
Well, this is St. Patrick's when we first, 1907. Notice this building here. This house, I think, is the Tui house. It was on the corner. That's that's what I believe. And some people say, no, the road was moved. But I think this is the original Tui house.
If you look at the Sanborn maps, that road has not been moved.
In any case, I think that's a argument nowadays. I can't substantiate any of it.